an aspect of your show, of course, that is both therapy, that is confessional booth, that is, frankly, Occupy Wall Street when it comes to just the populism taking control of what feels like a very top-down bureaucracy otherwise. And in this scenario, like the person, of course, who has most grabbed my attention all season this season is a guy who goes by a single name.
Legend. My favorite 3 words during the football season on a Monday after a loss by Alabama, that's his team. Legend is next.
All right, so Legend. Okay. You may recall Legend from like 15 minutes ago, actually, because Legend happens to be the caller whose analysis of a team coached by Nick Saban's replacement, Kalen DeBoer, after losing to 5-5 Oklahoma earlier this season, Bama's 3rd loss of said season, was this.
Paul, going from Coach Saban to Coach DeBoer, it's like going to bed married to Beyonce and waking up with Whoopi Goldberg laying next to you, brother.
So the first thing I wanted to find out about Legend was simple. Do you ever call Legend his real name, Paul?
No. I believe his real name is Gary.
And it is. Gary Wilson, it turns out, who has otherwise been working all sorts of jobs in Birmingham, Alabama. And so I decided that I should probably call up Gary myself.
Hey, bro, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you. Are you always wearing the glasses when you do this? When you make calls, when you talk, or is this just for me?
Yeah, I always wear them. I have like a little eye problem I've had since I was a kid. Anytime I'm in a bright room, I kind of have to wear some glasses. Kind of like Jim McMahon. Got the Jim McMahon syndrome,
What's your day job?
My day job is I work at a steakhouse. A few years ago, I was working construction. I had worked construction for 20 years. About 2 years ago on a construction site, I was working on an exhaust fan when a restraining bar broke and shattered my front grill, shattered it. I still can't have a conversation with any of my partials in the front. So I'm toothless in Alabama this morning for one reason, brother, on this show, because I love Paul Finebaum that friggin' much that I'd come on toothless from Alabama to tell folks how much I love this man. This man has given...
Paul, when did you realize, how long did it take you to realize that Legend was going to be one of these special callers, maybe even special in a way that no one could quite replicate?
After that aforementioned Vanderbilt game, he unloaded on the coaching staff.
Paul, I'm in sports hell, brother. I'm in sports hell. I never thought I would utter these words. Vandy is my daddy. Can you believe that?
The call went viral.
Let me tell you how pissed I am, Paul. Can I tell you, brother?
I wish you would. Go right ahead.
My neighbor gave me a picture of Coach DeBoer last Thursday, a signed picture, an 8x12 in a frame, and I put it in the fire pit Saturday night at midnight and set a match to it.
You burned it.
You don't lose the Vanderbilt. That's the ugliest little sister on the block. You don't lose the Vanderbilt. The honeymoon's over, and we need some damn marriage counseling. Legend has left the damn building.
When did sports radio become a thing that you knew you would enjoy?
2008, I'm riding down the road. I'm listening to rock radio in Birmingham, and it was just sucking. So I got flipping through the dial and came across somebody talking. It was Tim Brando talking to Finebaum.
So you made some crazy statements this year concerning Alabama.
That sounds like a beatdown, Tim.
And I just wondered if you'd be willing to admit now that you were wrong concerning several statements that you made over the last year.
But he was talking how Alabama should keep Mark Godfrey. And I said to myself, well, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. So just off the top of my head, I told the guy that picked up the phone, I said, I'm the legend, and I want to talk to that moron, Tim Brando, about Mark Godfrey. They sent me through that day, and it went viral that day, me attacking Brando and telling him what an idiot he was for wanting to keep Mark Godfrey.
You know what the funniest moment of this football season was to me, Timmy, Brando, is when they came to you at the halftime of the Ole Miss Alabama game and you realized that Alabama was kicking the fire out of your Ole Miss Rebels. It looked like somebody had hit you in the face with a big mouth bass.
And that's how the legend was born, ladies and gentlemen. Blame Paul Finebaum. He's the reason for this monster.
But there is something else that I needed to clarify about legend, Gary, that is critical to understanding the broader Finebaum community of callers, and also how it is mathematically even possible that college football is the second most popular sport in the United States, right behind the NFL, and easily the most unhinged. Which is that legend never actually attended the University of Alabama.
Well, I was born in Annapolis, Maryland. My father was from Alabama, and it's pouring down rain outside. I hope it don't start leaking here in the little legend cave. My father was from Alabama. He was in the military. My mama was from Maryland. We spent the first 10 years of my life right outside of Baltimore, Maryland, and Glen Burnie, Maryland, and Riviera Beach, Maryland. So I grew up in a sports fanatic family in Maryland. But the whole time, my father's influence of Alabama, my first rattler was an Alabama Roll Tide rattler. My first words were Roll Tide, not Daddy, but Roll Tide. That was my first words.
All of which qualifies legend, according to his own personal estimation, for a very special form of office, a leadership position in a truly startlingly enormous community. And it's the kind of office that, by definition, you cannot pay for.
I'm president of the Sidewalk alumni, and a lot of good people with diplomas love me, but there's a lot of people in Alabama don't like the legend. I am that fan that the administration don't want to talk about, the one that never went to school, that never got a diploma, never been in class. How dare him talk for the Alabama Crimson Tide? And they don't like that because they think, that old fan, Sidewalk alumni fan, he's stupid. The only thing he knows about is flag football. He don't know nothing about real football. Shut up.
I can make it really simple. Legend is the president of the Sidewalk alumni, and your colleague Joe Scarborough is the president of the upper crust elite Alabama alumni. I love Joe, but I gravitate more toward the Sidewalk. That's what I do. Some of them have been to Tuscaloosa. Some of them have actually even been to an Alabama game. But that doesn't matter to me because those folks have always needed representation. I think you can bring a political scientist in here, and this is really where the country is. And I think we have heard in elections that they're not being paid attention to. And I really believe that we give them a voice, and it may make the athletic directors and the chancellors and the bow-tied crowd in the ivory towers uncomfortable, but I really don't care.
I can say whatever the hell I want to. I worked my ass off today. I might have made $120. Don't you agree? I can say whatever the hell I want to about somebody that makes $10 billion a year. Wouldn't you agree with that, brother?
Legend, if somebody told me we can't allow that, it would be my last day here.
Hell yeah, we can say whatever the hell we want to say, and I got a few things to say.
It's an unbelievable asset to hear from a guy like Legend. What he did after Tennessee, after Alabama loses to Tennessee.
They say that a team takes on the personality of their coach. Well, our team is undisciplined and soft. And no doubt you, Coach DeBoer, are undisciplined and soft. Strike frigate dude, man. Strike frigate 2. We're about to go to the Birmingham Bowl. I ain't left the building. I've kicked the damn door down because I'm pissed off at this crap. This ain't Alabama football, and any Alabama fan that accepts it ain't a real damn fan.
Tony Kornheiser said this to me once, and I'll clean it up for this family podcast. He said, "How come you talk to those effing people?" So, of course, he did it with with the Long Island accent,
Yeah.
and you can't explain it. I mean, Tony, you don't have to talk to them. You pontificate. You used to have a show in Washington where you got James Carville and all these muckety mucks around the table. And then you sit around with Wilbon and opine for 30 minutes. And don't laugh. I saw you co-hosting that show yesterday.
Guilty. The ivory tower still has a nice padded cushion in my seat. Yeah.
I love it. I feel like whenever they take me away, I hear the barbarians at the gate right this moment. That will be my legacy. It won't be yelling at Stephen A. Smith or Greenberg or anyone else. It will be that.
No, you will be forever the guy who brought me the caller who said that losing to Oklahoma was like going to bed with Beyonce and waking up next to Whoopi Goldberg.
I thought that was the line of the year, and I was not surprised at all that the next morning on ESPN they edited that out, knowing that Whoopi was probably watching, and I think she's employed by the family.
Oh, sure,
too.
the larger family of networks.
I think The View should have had should have both of us on after this is published, and let the group hear that call.
I concur. In terms of just the callers and their own views of themselves. I was talking to Legend, and Legend wanted to be very clear about this. He said, I am not Harvey Updike. Harvey Updike is a criminal. That's not me.
It's not a performance. I'm a fanatic in the sports world. I'm not a criminal. I'm a fanatic. There's a difference. A criminal poisons trees, hurts other people. A fanatic might cuss his coach out, might cuss the quarterback out, might cuss the general manager out, the owner. That's what a fanatic is, but he's doing all that in the fact that he loves his team.
And of course, in my mind, I immediately went to, of course, Legend's own past.
Well, I knew there was a story behind Legend. Legend was part of a group called Sons of Saban. Sounds like one of those groups in New York that go around and keep the law.
That's right.
So we had lunch, and I said, Legend, what's the deal? I know you've alluded to your past. And he looked at me, he said, there's nothing to run away from. He said, I've been to prison. I said, okay. Couldn't really counter that by saying, well, so have I. I said, what were you in for? He said, murder.
On paper, it is grisly, right? I mean, what we're talking about with Legend is a story of him when he's 17 years old. It's Winston County. It's Northwest Alabama. The argument with his cousin over a girl, I believe he also mentioned.
We were distant cousins, We grew up in a little town where there wasn't but 30 people in the whole town, We grew up around each other all of our lives. And then when we got up to about 17, I was already deep into drugs, and so when we got to that age, we got into a fight over a young lady, and it escalated from the fight over the young lady and to the incident that happened. But
and he goes to his father's gun cabinet. His dad's out. His dad apparently working in the coal mine. It's a .22 rifle, and he takes his cousin out to the woods, and he shoots Randy Barton, also 17, twice in the back of the head.
When I was 17 years old, I took a young man's life, another 17-year-old young man. It was an act of a coward. Anybody that takes a gun and takes a life is committing an act of cowardice. God gave you a brain, and we ought to be able to use it. I killed a man, destroyed his life. I threw my life away. as a young man. I destroyed many families associated. It was a horrible, horrible thing. I'm very ashamed of it. I faced the electric chair for 18 months. And at the time in the state of Alabama, Charles Graddick was running for governor. He was the attorney general of the state of Alabama, and he wanted to lock everybody up and throw away the key.
I'm Charlie Graddick. For vicious killings like this, it's been proven that capital punishment can be an effective deterrent.
That was his big commercial. So they were going to they was going to make an example of me. They was intended to give me the electric chair for 18 months from 17 to I was 18. I faced the possibility of going to what they call the Big Yellow Mama in Alabama. And it looked for a while like that is what would happen. And then we went to court, and my lawyer worked out a deal for a life sentence with the possibility of parole. And we went that route, realizing how young I was, that, it wasn't guaranteed, but there was a possibility that I would get another chance in society, and I'm so thankful for it.
That day at lunch, when he was telling me the story, I said, "So what exactly do you do, Legend?" He said, "I'm an electrician." He said, "And by the way, if you or your wife ever need any," and I started thinking, maybe I got to get to know this guy a little bit better. But today, I would give him the keys to my house.
You believe that this guy who had served his time, who has come out and gotten to know you over the airwaves and apparently in person, that he is in fact rehabilitated. That is not a question to you.
100%. Not only that, Pablo, I mean, he's a genuinely good person. He helps a lot of people. And I think a lot of people hear him on the show. Plenty of people have had problems, as you well know. And they go, I can, I'll try to say this with a straight face, I can be Legend. I mean, he is, he's a personification of what our show is all about. A guy that probably should be dead, but now he's a famous Finebaum caller.
I spent 15 years in prison, 15 hard years in prison. It was a rough life. And when I came out, I was determined to make it when I came out.
Paul, you say you don't know the story of actually how Legend got the name Legend.
I don't.
The first few years I was out of prison, I traveled the country as an evangelist, preaching the gospel and sharing the goodness of what the Lord had done in my life. And when I would go to different churches across the country, because I had been in prison, one of the things they would do is have me go into the prisons and preach in the area. So I was in Defuniak Springs, Florida, preaching at a big church, and they had me go down to the prison one Sunday night and preach at a minimum security prison. And I preached there that night, and over 100 men came to know the Lord. And as I was leaving the prison, an inmate was running behind me saying, "That guy is a legend. That guy is a legend. He's a legend." And the preacher that had brought me in with him, he picked it up and he started calling me Legend that day. And before I knew it, everybody around me was calling me Legend.
And that's how it happened.
That's legendary.
He had mentioned, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a moment, I guess, about a year and a half ago. I believe it was a school shooting of some kind.
The first emergency calls coming Tuesday morning, and they were horrific. An active shooter at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas.
And he said that this was the thing that made him want to go and actually take his act, so to speak, out on the road to these prisons.
Oh, he gave an impassioned speech that day on our program, Pablo.
They think, "Hey, Legend's crazy." That might be in sports, but in real life, it's serious. Real life is different than sports. And in real life, put the guns down. Put them down.
Somebody called in off the air and said that they were thinking about killing someone that day. It was a guy, I think he was in Philadelphia, that he'd had some run-in with a guy down the street, and he'd gone back to get his gun, and somehow he thought of what Legend had said.
I grew up in a house watching my grandfather throw the remote at the television, cuss the TV. I grew up in that kind of house, you know what I'm saying? But thanks to Paul and that therapy that I get each day, I'll manage to move on.
It does feel like Paul is giving out a kind of medication.
We are the castaways. We are the throwaway fans. We are the fans that nobody says, I'm not kin to one of them Finebaum callers. You know what I'm saying? The Finebaum callers are crazy. We're that fan. We're that fanatical, crazy fan, and we are real. We are real.